I remember the thrill of rushing home from school to dive into hours of playing my favorite FPS games. I tossed my backpack aside, ignored the mountains of homework I swore I'd do later, and eagerly fired up my console for some of the best multiplayer first-person shooter experiences imaginable. Trash talk, epic moments, and endless fun. It was more than gaming. It defined an era. But fast forward to today, and something feels off. Now as I boot up a modern FPS, and within a handful of matches, I'm already bored. I find myself asking, where's the excitement? Where's the magic? What the hell happened to FPS games? Today, join me as I break down the downfall of the genre. I'll be focusing on the big three: Halo, Battlefield, and Call of Duty, the franchises that once ruled the first-person shooters but are now a shadow of their former selves. Because if something doesn't change soon, we might be witnessing the slow death of an entire genre. The success of FPS games was built on innovation. Halo Combat Evolved modernized the genre, and Halo 2 introduced matchmaking, a feature that remains a standard in multiplayer gaming today. Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare crafted an insanely addictive, fast-paced gameplay loop, while World at War gave us a gritty, action-packed depiction of war. Battlefield took things to an even grander scale with massive firefights and indestructible environments, and Battlefield 4's Levolution fundamentally changed the way maps played in real time. These games didn't chase trends, they created them. Beyond gameplay, these games had something that kept players coming back: addictive progression and rewarding customization. Halo 3 was among the first in the genre to introduce armor sets and character customization tied to in-game achievements. Call of Duty had players grind for camos, unlockable calling cards that showcased their skill, and custom emblems that added a personal touch to their profile. Battlefield, while not as heavy on character customization, featured an impressive array of weapons and attachments to unlock. With these features, players had incentive to keep playing, without ever feeling like their time was wasted. This kind of design led to sky-high player retention and some of the most successful FPS games of all time. These games are more than just a bunch of binary ones and zeros displayed on a screen. They defined an online gaming culture. They weren't just shooters, they were social hubs. Call of Duty Search and Destroy lobbies are still remembered as legendary, and Halo custom games gave us unforgettable nights playing Fat Kid, Speed Halo, Jenga, and so many more community-made game modes. And then there's Battlefield, a franchise built on emerging gameplay. Moments like the famous Renazoo clip, where a player jumps out of their jet, shoots an RPG at another pilot mid-air, and re-enters their own jet just to get back in the fight. There's a reason why there is the phrase Battlefield moments. That kind of sandbox magic is what makes these games so beloved. But unfortunately, with success comes money, and with money comes greed. While developers were innovating ways to make their games better for their fans, game publishers were innovating ways to siphon money from their player base. At first, monetization of first-person shooter games was fairly reasonable. DLC map packs added real content, and small cosmetic bundles weren't met with much pushback. Black Ops 2 introduced minor skin packs, and Halo 4 had DLC cosmetics like the Champions bundle. There were small additions that cost both mere dollars, but they laid the groundwork for something far worse. We went from earning cosmetics through skill and dedication to being bombarded with $30 skin bundles designed to entice players to buy the next best skin. Not only did this nickel and diming hurt player satisfaction, but it completely shattered the atmosphere of these once immersive games. In order to get players to buy more and more skins, they made each skin more and more extreme than the last. Players bought a skin that they thought was cool, just to find out 2 days later that they released an even cooler skin, just to find out 2 days later that they released an even cooler skin. The cycle goes on. We had super soldiers, and now we got Spartans with kitty ears, and $5 bundles of the color blue. Gone were the gritty war-torn battlefields of World at War. Now you had Nicki Minaj running around with neon rainbow tracer rounds. Thankfully, someone leaked the Battlefield Santa skin. Otherwise, what Skins 2024 would have been way worse. Oh wait, now let's talk about how these games have been released in a broken, unfinished state. The past 3 Halo games have been missing core features at launch. The Master Chief Collection was a buggy mess, which even made the classics unbearable. Halo 5 and Infinite were ripped from content which was promised at launch.
For any FPS going out forward, we will always have split screen in going forward.
We have had to make the difficult decision not to ship campaign split screen co-op and take the resources that we would use on that and go after this list and all these other things that we're going to talk about in just a sec.
When will the lies end?
Just to drip feed it to the player base later on. Features like Forge and Infection took months, sometimes years to arrive, and despite this, Halo YouTubers kept trying to gaslight the community into believing that Halo is back with every minor content update. Let's check on the Halo YouTube scene now.
Why do you refuse to wear a chest plate? Master Chief himself offered you a chest plate, yet you still aren't wearing one. Surprisingly, people don't treat me any differently from having beans.
Yikes. And before we go any further, guys, I need to come clean. When I said publishers were innovating in ways to make more money, that was a lie. They're not innovating at all, they're just copying trends. Look at the past 2 Battlefield games. Battlefield 5 shoehorned in a battle royale mode that no one asked for, just to chase Fortnite's success. Then, instead of learning from that mistake, Battlefield 2042 tried to copy Escape from Tarkov with its Hazard Zone mode, but completely failed to capture what made that game special. These weren't creative expansions of the Battlefield formula, they were shallow attempts to cash in on trends. And Call of Duty is no better. Blackout, the Battle Pass, and the in-game store from Black Ops 4 were all borrowed from Fortnite, which was borrowing from PUBG. Warzone was fun at first, but after the first year, it became stale, mirroring the biggest issue plaguing the FPS genre today, a complete lack of meaningful, original change. Each of these games are hopping onto the bandwagon that is games as a service, which I don't mind, but instead of adding content that adds to the game, they add content that adds to their bank accounts. The issue is that these games aren't innovating, they're just copying. These companies need to add on to their games by growing the mechanics, not just copying and pasting ideas from others. It's like the difference between working out, eventually getting huge muscles to impress the ladies, versus injecting silicone into your biceps, which in theory do get you to look bigger artificially, but no woman would ever look in your direction. These games can innovate, such as Halo 5's Warzone, where besides the wrecked loot box system, it was a great time and was a good balance between PvP and PvE. Now I have to talk about the elephant in the room. No, it's not those mechanics which the FPS community has been negatively talking about for years, such as skill-based matchmaking, continuity in lobbies, and mechanics which encourage players to communicate and talk to each other. Oh wait, it's actually an amalgam of all these issues. Recently, game companies have spent millions for nerds to look at analytics and data to social engineer every aspect of games in order to retain players instead of entertain them. Developers have meticulously fine-tuned these algorithms to keep you hooked, ensuring you win just enough matches to stop you from quitting, but never truly dominate. Let's say they notice you stop playing after you lose 4 games and go negative. The algorithm recognizes this and will now ensure you will only go with 3 bad games and will give you a mercy lobby to keep you hooked. The argument being that this will pair you up against those of equal skill, so you can get better, as well as preventing those who can't reload without looking at the controller to find the button don't get paired up with optic scum. The issue is I don't play casual first-person shooters to get better. I play to pub stomp 9-year-olds in Call of Duty and get extreme dopamine boosts from the Halo announcer when I go on a kill streak.
Subscribe!
I have a job where I can't play video games for months at a time. I can't keep up with the unemployed need trying to make it big on Twitch. Which I just realized is kind of ironic coming from a small YouTuber as myself.
Awkward.
Not to mention that we already have game modes which will match you with players around your skill, so you can get better at the game. It's called Ranked. If you are scared of getting pub stomped, then you can go into Bronze 3 lobby and have a decent time. But no one does this because their egos are too fragile to have a number attached to how good they are at the game. The issue is there's no reward for sweating your dick off because you can't see your elo getting better, nor do you feel the progress because every match is designed to break the teams evenly. Once again, it's about retaining everyone at the detriment of fun. Skill-based matchmaking also led to the death of continuity in lobbies. Back in the day, you'd stay in the same lobby, forming rivalries and friendships over multiple matches. Now, lobbies are disbanded after every game, all in the name of keeping players in an optimal retention cycle. And this ties into the overly social engineered system in these games because the rivalries that did build would maybe be seen as toxic to those who are sensitive.
Yum 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 yum, I eat dick all day. Yum 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 yum.
Since it's hard to monitor all lobbies at once, they implemented voice chat AI which bans players for the slightest infraction. And now, in-game chat feels like an episode of Cocomelon, lifeless and bland. Classic Call of Duty had some of the most iconic gaming moments, and if all these new limiting mechanics were put into the older lobbies, I doubt we'd have as many memories as we do now. Speaking about censorship, look at Call of Duty and Battlefield where they have censored their games. There was once a time where these first-person shooters were known for their campaign. World at War was known for its gritty and bloody depiction of the horrors of war, which may be less than ideal for a game company wanting to appeal to the widest audience possible. And look at the difference between World at War and Vanguard. There's barely a similarity, all while being in the same time zone. Battlefield's story was what built the Warzone's atmosphere. You could directly tie a multiplayer map into the story, kind of giving the experience a bigger purpose than just the chaotic fun that was Battlefield. Pair that with Battlefield 2042, which launched with no campaign, even though they tried pushing the whole no pats thing, which was just a sad excuse to make the game into a hero shooter. Halo's campaign was at one point the main reason why you bought the game. The memories I have of playing Halo with the boys on split screen are memorable. Now they don't add split screen into the campaigns at launch, and overall the recent plots have been mediocre at best. While I can give you the play-by-play of every Halo game up to Halo 4, I barely remember Halo 5 and Infinite. And with Call of Duty's campaign, it was controversial and gritty, often highlighting the horrors of war. You had World at War, which capitalized on the darkness of war, having the Japanese bonsai rush the player, or watching Nazis get shot as prisoners of war. Just look at COD 4's mission, Shock and Awe, which had you rescue a Cobra pilot with a nuclear threat looming in your mind. Or when Modern Warfare 3 depicts a chemical attack throughout Paris, which led you to fighting alongside GIGN to get revenge on the chemical bomb maker, Volk. And I obviously don't need to get into No Russian. Everyone knows about No Russian. Now every Call of Duty campaign seems to be a lazy plot where there's some weapon of mass destruction, but it never gets used because the good guys always win. First-person shooter campaigns used to be what set the tone of the game, and now they're an afterthought. It's really sad to see how these 3 giants have fallen. Publishers are too blinded by greed to see what the community is crying out for. The genre needs Halo, Battlefield, and Call of Duty to improve, otherwise we just have an empty void which hasn't been filled up for years. But there's still hope. 343 Industries has rebranded to Halo Studios, and while I definitely will take this with a huge grain of salt, I want to believe that they have what's best in mind for Halo. I've said this time and time again. Halo Infinite had great gameplay, but was tarnished by a mediocre campaign, lack of a rewarding gameplay loop, and drip-feeding content which should have been there since day one. And it's sad because something small that the last 2 Halo games added, which could have improved both games' lifespan, was a custom games browser. And I feel like if a Halo game was to drop with everything from Forge to all of the party modes, the game wouldn't have been dead on arrival. Just to add on to the skepticism, Halo Studios added a lazily put together update and continued to include various divisive cosmetics, which no one in the community wants. So, once again, huge grain of salt. Call of Duty often gets a bad rap for being the same game every year, and honestly, they're kinda right. Call of Duty needs to mix it up a little bit. There are only so many times that they can release Warzone or the same maps on repeat, such as Nuketown, Nuketown 2025, Nuketown with a 3, Nuketown Zombies, Alpha Omega, which is just Nuketown Zombies 2, Nuketown 84, you kinda get the idea. The issue is lack of competition from the other titles. Call of Duty has no need to improve because the competition isn't there. The only time Call of Duty really has been scared was when DICE completely wiped the floor with Battlefield 1 going up against Infinite Warfare after years of players wanting Call of Duty to go back to its roots. And I already did a video on what the next Battlefield needs in order to succeed, but the meat and potatoes of it all is that with the implementation of Battlefield Labs, hopefully DICE can create a game through the player base's input, who wants to see an amazing game rather than through the corporations, which only care about money. Just like with Halo Studios, a huge grain of salt. I know it's cliche to say that if the next game isn't a BOOM, it'll be dead forever, but I'm not being hyperbolic when I say this. Things need to change. Xbox and EA won't keep throwing money at Halo and Battlefield if they keep underperforming, and Call of Duty will keep churning out the same recycled experience year after year, banking on nostalgia and FOMO to keep players hooked. The FPS genre, which once defined gaming, is now on life support. The same game that gave us some of the best multiplayer experiences ever are now shells of what they used to be, plagued by uninspired design, corporate greed, and a complete disconnect from what made them great in the first place. If something doesn't change soon, we may be witnessing the decline of an entire genre, one that built the foundations of online gaming as we know it. But what do you think? Do you believe FPS games can make a comeback, or are we too far gone? Are there any FPS games which are carrying the genre that I didn't mention? And if you enjoyed this video, I've got plenty more. I've covered how cosmetic microtransactions ruin gaming, the future of Battlefield, and even how live service games can be good if done right. Check this out if you want to dive deeper into those topics. Finally, I always welcome criticism, because I want to keep improving and making better videos for you all. I plan on possibly going deeper into the various topics mentioned in this video, so if you're interested, please subscribe. Thanks for watching.